who perhaps took birth here in India, the devotees who took birth in the West when Prabhupada came, this was not our culture. This was not a system of yoga or knowledge that we had any familiarity with. It was so totally different. And maybe that made it easy. We all felt, since we never heard any of this before, oh, this has just come from the spiritual world. It didn't come just from India. It came all the way from the spiritual world. It was easy to feel that way when Prabhupada came. Can you what? Yes, I forgot. Oh, from me, Krishna says, comes knowledge of remembrances and forgetfulness. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna. So today we are very fortunate to have with us one of the very senior disciples of Srila Prabhupada. His grace Rameshwar who
Hare Krishna. You know, you say Hari Bol, and that's wonderful because that makes me feel, oh, Lord Nitai Goranga, Hari Bol, if only you could give me love for those holy names. That's what Nitai Gaur Hari Bol means. We're praying to the Lord. We're not just glorifying and so happy because it's so blissful, but we're also begging at the same time. You know that we can do more than one thing at one time. The mind is capable. You could be worshiping and enjoying, giving your heart, and at the same time, you could also be praying, all at the same time. That is human life. This is possible. So whenever I hear Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, immediately I'm praying to our Lords, Gauranga and Nityananda. Please, I'm so unworthy. Let me fall in love with the holy names. Please give me a taste of the holy names. We have read from Rupa Goswami, if only I could have millions and millions of ears and millions of tongues just to taste the nectar that's inside the holy names. Well, I have not experienced that yet. That natural feeling, I need millions of ears. I need millions of tongues. And I should never stop, even in my sleep, chanting. So I pray for that.
we are very fortunate
Hare
to
Krishna.
have with us this Rameshwar. Short introduction of his
Hare Krishna.
tremendous services to Srila Prabhupada. We hear and read his names in Prabhupada Lila many times.
Hare Krishna.
It is a great fortune to have him here personally with us. And he has come here for our anniversary program of Mrs. Radha Bihari temple opening.
Jai.
So Prabhuji got initiated from Srila Prabhupada in 1971.
No. Yes. I keep thinking my initiation was the day I moved into the temple and fell in love with Prabhupada. But the actual Diksha was in April 1971. And the second Diksha, Brahminical Mantra Diksha, was also, I think, September or October 1971. Somehow Prabhupada rushed me. Hare Krishna.
So after his being initiated by Srila Prabhupada in 71, from 76 to 86, he was part of GBC and doing the services.
Did you say BBT? No, it's much okay.
90s.
Let me just say it this way. It's much better if I explain. GBC is the last thing I would have mentioned, not the first. The day I moved into the temple, well, it was in the evening. I've never been to a temple, but I had been with the devotees on Hare Nam, Sankirtan. That's how I met the devotees. That is how I met Sri Krishna in his holy name. So I've been with the devotees chanting instead of going to my classes at college. And then, by Krishna's grace and the excellent preaching of one devotee who was the temple president, I said, "Oh, this is the purpose of life. I'm done with college. You go to college to find out what you want to do in your life." Well, I just found out on the sidewalks of this city of Portland because of the holy name. So I ran back to my apartment. It was like a yoga house. I gathered all my possessions, went to the college, set up a table, like a picnic table, and spent the whole day selling everything that I had in the world, which was such nectar. And then I brought the money to the temple that night. I remember knocking on the door around 8:30. And who knocks on a temple door? It's time for everyone's taking rest. So Lochan, my savior. For those of you who don't know Lochan, you see his energy every time you see a murti of Srila Prabhupada on any Vyasasan in the whole world, because he is the sculptor who does that work. So he was my temple president. And he says, "What are you doing here?" And I said, very meekly, very shy, "Would it be okay if I stayed here at this temple with all of you?" And I told him, "I brought some Lakshmi money for your rent." And so that's the introduction of me to Krishna consciousness. And then from the next morning, after the morning program, everyone had a different service, and we were going out on Harinam every day. But I asked Lochan, "Prabhupada came with these books. Is this just for us?" "No. These books are for everyone, right?" "Yes." "Well, I've been a student in this city for 1 year. I know the owner of every bookstore in the whole city. What if I take some books and go to the bookstores?" He said, "Yes, you can try." So my first full day in ISKCON was distributing Prabhupada's books. And that's who I am. And it's not me, it's but anyway, devotees had so much love for Srila Prabhupada. That is why they went out on Sankirtan and tried to give people these books. So my life in our ISKCON is really my life at Prabhupada's lotus feet, helping to take his books and introduce them to the world in any way I could. And that's my relationship with Prabhupada. And he had me work at his BBT. I started in 1972. And that's when the BBT was created by Prabhupada. And gradually, he increased my responsibilities. And then he wrote me a letter, which I often quote as a general instruction to everyone. These books are meant to be published in every language of the world and distributed profusely throughout the whole world, So he wrote, "This is my lifelong personal instruction from my guru. So do not divert your mind for even a moment from this." And sometimes there were some interruptions, but I tried my hardest to follow that with my heart and soul. And really, I am BBT man. I'm Prabhupada man. I am book distribution man. That's who I am. And GBC is just for managing. GBC is not the Jugya of this age. They're not producing and distributing the books. That's a separate category of devotional service. So that's, for those who don't know me, that's who I am. And I wanted, before we just let me just go on and on and on talking about Prabhupada, I wanted to know if any of you want to know anything about Prabhupada that you want to ask about. This is your chance. So you have to run around with this mic. You raise your hand. I don't care if there's 30 devotees saying, "I want to know this. I want to know that. I want to hear about this. I want to hear all your requests," if that's okay. You can stop. Oh, there's another mic. Well, you'll have, yeah, but you have to do this side of the room and then that. Anybody raising their hand? I don't see anybody raising their hand. Anybody want to know anything about Prabhupada? Oh, okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna back.
Opportunity. So I believe there must be many things which is really inspiring about Prabhupada.
Oh, infinite thing, infinite number.
But what is the thing which really inspired you as an individual and which you take from Prabhupada?
What inspired me? Okay. Okay. What's the next one? I want to hear all the questions. Some of them may repeat, and I'll feed it all in the answers. Anyone else have their hand up? Please run around and pass this mic. I won't forget the question. Hare Krishna, do we have a mic like this? Why don't you just take this? I know, but they don't know what to do with it. Prabhu, trust me.
We wanted to more about this, how Prabhupada wanted to read and how to distribute it. Read this book. Can you explain more?
So the first part was how Prabhupada wanted us to read.
Yes, Prabhu.
And the second part is how he wanted us to distribute.
And mood also. What in which mood we should read, and in which mood we should distribute.
I'll try my best to share what I know. And who else is raising their hand with a question? You get one more chance tomorrow night, by the way.
All of you are requested to think of some questions and then quickly raise your hands. Puja, I wanted to know some instances that really made Prabhupada angry.
Oh,
Those things
why
that,
you want to know that?
So that we avoid doing that.
That's a very unusual question. Please tell me about Prabhupada getting angry. What made him? Okay.
Many of the memoirs exclude some unpalatable things, but you had first-hand experience. We want to just know that things which we can also then avoid doing that really made Prabhupada curious.
Huh.
Devotees, you can raise your hands if you have any questions.
Well, okay, so the first question was what inspired me the most about Prabhupada. Second question was, what mood should we have when we're reading his books? And what mood should we have when we're distributing his books? Third question was, what did you do or others do that really made Srila Prabhupada spiritually angry? Okay. Now, you have a question?
Hare We see that Prabhupada was managing the whole ISKCON, all the temples, all the devotees.
Yeah, how about that?
So how could Prabhupada do that in such a short time?
That is such an amazing question. Or I should say, that is a question about such an amazing quality of Prabhupada. Okay. And one last one on this side, then we take some questions from this side too. This devotee back there has a question. Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada's favorite Lila.
When
Favorite
you say Prabhupada's favorite Lila, are you talking about between Lord Ram Lila, Krishna
I'm talking about Krishna Lila. Which is your favorite Krishna Lila pastime?
Krishna Lila?
Yes.
What about Gauranga Lila? Just you want you want to know what Prabhupada liked in Krishna Lila.
Yeah, in Krishna Lila, my favorite Lila.
Ah.
Or if you can add also Gaur Lila.
Do you ever chant? I'm just going to answer this one right away. Do you ever chant Jai Radha Madhava?
Yes.
How many Leelas are there in that beautiful song?
Ras Lila and also Yashodananda, Damodar is also maybe mentioned. About the Lila with his mother, Yashodama and Krishna, and Govardhan Lila, and also with his cow with his friend.
Oh, yes. So you have named so many different Leelas and Rasas. And you're asking of all of those, which one did Prabhupada like more than the others?
Yes.
I see. I would just say meditate very carefully on every word of Jai Radha Madhava. Prabhupada loved Krishna and was with Krishna in every way possible. He loved singing that. He did not just sing Radhe, 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 which devotees love to sing. He did not just sing songs about the boys. Play. Krishna's in your heart and he wants to play with you. Who are you? Who am I? Who are any of us? And Krishna is saying, please come and play with me. How could you not love that? How does that not blow your mind? Every one of those Leelas, Prabhupada loved. I can't tell you in his heart of hearts if he loved this one more or that one more. Prabhupada was a lover of Krishna. One of the most important things that Prabhupada ever did to the world before Prabhupada, and never mind what everyone in India forgot, but before Prabhupada, the whole world thought, if they think at all about God, because half the world said he's not even real, but the other half, they thought about God. And they had this human idea. Oh, God is the original person. He must be very, very old. So he must have long white hair, long white beards. That must be because he's the oldest. Before Prabhupada came, the whole world thought that was God. That means they didn't know anything about God. They just take some human experience and imagine that to be what goes on in heaven. That's their religions in the world. So as I said, everyone forgot in this country practically, because if you really knew who is God, how could you just stay in India? How could you not be like Prabhupada and travel the whole world and give God to everyone? So no matter what anyone says about their culture and their religion, no one knew about God. Otherwise, they would have felt that way. That's my perception. Before Prabhupada, there was no understanding that God has play. There was no concept of different spiritual rasa, eternal, timeless exchanges with God in different mellows of love. Nobody ever thought it, couldn't even imagine such a thing. And none of the leaders of the religions ever either spoke about it, or their followers forgot to ask about it. Imagine if you lived 2,000 years ago and you were with Jesus and you called out, I have a question about the kingdom of God. Jesus would stop immediately to hear your question. Always. Did anyone ever ask him, please tell us what God looks like? What does God do? You say, my Father has many mansions. What does that mean? One at a time? What is it? Nobody even thought to ask those questions. And the whole world has no idea until Prabhupada came, one of his greatest contributions, Madhurya Ras, Sakya Ras, Vatsalya Ras. I mean, these are unimaginable contributions to the whole understanding of God. Prabhupada brought that to the world. Nobody else. Yes, they had some esoteric groups here and there studying this, acting like they knew. I say acting like they knew because if they didn't go and give this to others, I don't know how deep it was that they knew. The Goswamis are not, what is the word? Bhajan Anandis. They are Goshti Anandi. The Goswamis, the direct disciples of Gauranga, Lord Gauranga. We have to learn what loving God is through them. And that's why I brought this. I'm not going to forget any of your questions, and you're all going to have a chance to ask also. First of all, okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So, everyone can see this picture? I know it's very small. When ISKCON first started, devotees had no idea what God looked like. How the idea that God had a form was so strange. Most religions don't believe that God has a form. So anyway, Prabhupada sang the hymns of Lord Brahma and other songs, starting with the prayers to the six Goswamis. And he had this beautiful Hare Krishna kirtan. And then he sang the prayers to this pure spiritual master. And then what? He ended with Jai Radha Madhava. So the cover of that album, which came out in 1969, this was the cover. So when I first moved into the temple, I'm looking at this picture and I'm just, what is this? And the devotee told me, Lochan told me, oh, this is what God really looks like. You go to the spiritual world, God looks like this. And every day I would hold this album cover in my hand and start thinking and feeling, oh my God, this is God. I went from an ignorant, impersonal rascal to, I know what God looks like. How amazing is that? So that's what Prabhupada did. All the rasas are part of knowing what God is, who God is, what he does. The idea that God is the source and we are all the reflections. Is there anyone here that needs every word translated? So far, okay. Where do we get the feeling to love a child? Where does that come from? What, it just comes out of a void? Out of nothing? Look, there's only two philosophies really in the world. Everything comes out of God. Everything comes out of matter. There's no third philosophy. Either everything is coming out of God and beginning with God, or everything is coming out of tiny invisible material particles of matter. They're so invisible that you can even say they're nothingness. It's nothing. So, did your love for your child come out of a particle of matter that is so small, so subatomic, that it's practically nothing? Is that where love comes from? Does that make any sense? We have in us the reflections of all the rasas. Where does that come from? Everyone in this room is carrying inside you, inside me, a tiny reflection of the rasas that God enjoys eternally, infinitely, ecstatically, with a level of love no one's ever imagined. All of that's in God. And we have a tiny bit of it in us. We are tiny little parts of God. But nobody knew that God does that. All these great philosophies and religion, God cannot have form. God has no form. God certainly doesn't have a girlfriend. God certainly does not have a boyfriend. God doesn't have a mother scolding him, carrying him. No one could imagine what Prabhupada taught the whole world about rasas as part of this is what God is. So that's one of the greatest things that Prabhupada did for this world. If you make a list of all the greatest things Prabhupada did, that has to be equal. Let's say there's 3 of the greatest things. That's one of them, without fail. That is one of the things. Prabhupada brought this to this world, and the world will never, ever be the same again. Ever. We now know, as crazy and unimaginable as it sounds, that God is living inside us, waiting, calling. We're nothing. We're demons practically. And God is saying, I would like you to come to play with me. How could you have ever known that if Prabhupada had not come to this world? Look what Prabhupada gave us to think about and to meditate on and to be amazed by and to begin to understand that God has a form, spirit has form. Everyone in the spirit world has a spirit body, so they can easily see the spirit forms. But once every how many millions and billions of years, God decides, let me come into this universe in my original spiritual form. I'm invisible. Nobody can see that. I will give everyone the eyes to see me. Some of them will think that's a material body. Some of them will think this is God showing us, awakening our eyes to who He is. Whatever someone's desire was, that's how they saw God 5,000 years ago. So, Krishna says to all of us, if you can just understand one thing, just one thing, the transcendental nature of my appearance. I'm appearing in my spiritual form, which means you cannot see it. But I am God. I'm giving you the ability to see spirit anyway. That's the meaning of that verse in the Bhagavad Gita. If you understand the transcendental nature of my appearance, and then it goes on, my activities and so on, But just to understand this one point, God's body is spirit, which means it's invisible. And it also means it's made of spiritual energies that have many different qualities than any material particles have. So we totally don't know what this God's body is. We have no idea what God's qualities are. His whole body is spiritual, and we certainly can't see it. Spirit is invisible. You cannot even see your own soul. But if you can understand that God decided to let you see spirit, it was actually spirit, and he just gave people the eyes to see spirit for 125 years. Now you're beginning to understand the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance. And what happens if you do understand that? You become liberated. Krishna says you are immediately liberated. So anyway, that's what Prabhupada brought. Rasas. Okay, so we have, what's the most inspiring thing about Prabhupada? We have, what mood should we read his books? What mood should we distribute his books? And this very interesting question, what are the things that Prabhupada got angry about? What was that anger like? Who could possibly handle that anger? Okay, now this side, any questions? Raise your hand. Where's the mic? Someone please run over the mic to these Manajis. Okay, what questions do you Manajis have?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I just wanted to know how and why did Prabhupada save the most fallen people, the hippies, the druggists, etc.
You want to know why Prabhupada went to those who are the most fallen when he came to the West to save? A very nice question. Any other Manajis have any questions about Prabhupada? Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna back.
So we wanted to know, like, how did the miracle of publishing checklists come?
I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean, we're going to need more than 2 nights. Okay. Any other questions about Prabhupada that you would like to know? You have another chance to ask tomorrow, but any ladies, anyone else? Yes, one more lady, and then we go back to you, and then I can start answering. Although I did jump and answer his. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
So this converting hippies to happy, converting them to devotees was like a big miracle.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, when initially when these hippies used to attend, I mean, they used to attend obviously, but how did Prabhupada influence them?
That is a good question, since I was called by all my schoolmates a hippie. Okay. How did Prabhupada influence the hippies and turn them into happies? Okay. You have one last question? You're the one who wants to know about Prabhupada's anger. Pounding his fist on the desk, right? Okay.
You could also tell us the very inspiring story of how you got the money for the printing of the 1 million Bhagavad Gita.
How do you know that?
I was in the HOD meeting when you said spoke this story.
You were where?
The HOD meeting when we were discussing the marathon, and you mentioned that story there.
Yeah.
So for the benefit of everyone else, if you could just mention.
Okay. All right. So, those of you who were shy and didn't ask a question, I'm just going to tell you that one of my serious regrets in my life is that today I have so many questions, and Prabhupada was right here, that I would ask him, that I didn't ask him when he was right there in front of me, letting me ask. So with age and time, you think of more questions. So you will all age, and you have all the time between tonight and tomorrow night. Think of any more questions. Okay, so first, your question was about what inspired, this is personal, me, about Prabhupada. Well, I think the way I would answer that is the way many, many devotees from that generation who met Prabhupada and who surrendered and became his disciples and his students would answer it. There were two things about Prabhupada that we had never experienced. I'll tell you the lesser one, but they're a simultaneous one and different. They're equal, but then one is still higher. Prabhupada knew everything. He was delivering knowledge that everyone in every religion forgot to ask Muhammad or Buddha or Jesus or Moses or any saints. All the things that people forgot to ask or never thought of even asking. Prabhupada is here just freely giving this knowledge. And it made you realize, oh my God, how did they not ask about that? How did they not ask about this? They didn't even know that the soul cannot die, and so it has to take many births. They did not know that God loves us. Why would he send us to hell forever? What kind of love is that? I mean, it's amazing. All of this knowledge about the souls and about God and his kingdom was pouring out of Prabhupada. We had no source of knowledge, and then suddenly we had the infinite source of knowledge. We were inspired beyond words. We would sit at his feet and just listen, because every time we heard anything from Prabhupada, it would be like something new that we never knew before. If you are a serious reader of Prabhupada's books, then it doesn't matter. Oh, I read the Bhagavad Gita back. Let's see, I read the Bhagavad Gita 50 years ago. I did, 1972. I read it. If I read the Bhagavad Gita tonight, I will learn something so fresh, so deep, so new. How is that possible? How is it possible that every time you hear from Prabhupada, it's like you're getting some new knowledge, more knowledge, blissful knowledge, amazing knowledge? That is the first thing that really inspired devotees. It's just like a dream come true. We're lost, we're ignorant, and here's this person that's telling us everything. He's been to the spiritual kingdom of God, and now he's here on this, walking on this earth. He knows what that is. Life is up there, far, far beyond this universe, and he's come down here to teach about it. We could barely close our jaws. We were just like gasping at the awesome knowledge that Prabhupada brought. So that was very inspirational. But there was another thing about Prabhupada. I mean, so many things, but it is a fact that every soul is here in this material world, in every different species of life, looking for their crazy conception of what is love. And usually, because they have no knowledge, they're so ignorant, they equate, oh, love means sex. Oh, I'm a hog. I'm having sex with Mrs. Hog. She's making so many baby hogs. And she has prepared a nice feast of stool. And I'm completely happy because I'm having sex, because I think I found love. It is amazing that the souls will accept these a worm inside stool. Every type of body, millions and millions of different species of bodies, because they think they're going to somehow find love or sex. They think that love means sex. But that's why we're all here in the universe. That's what everyone is looking for. The soul can never be satisfied or happy without love. Not possible. That's what nourishes the soul. If the soul doesn't get love, it becomes so dried up, it just falls asleep. It doesn't even want to be active. It's a horror to not have love. And so everyone's trying, every soul is trying. So, at least in my case, but I think everyone would say this. Those who came married, those who came with boyfriends, girlfriends, those who came celibate or without, maybe not celibate, but without boyfriends or girlfriends, everyone would agree. We don't know what the fullness of love is. You're saying love can be infinite, can at every moment grow and be better than just a moment before? Well, that's not how my marriage works. I mean, every devotee and student, when they hear Prabhupada describing the infinite nature, ever expanding, ever increasing quality and nature of love, they would easily say, I never felt anything like that before. I didn't even know I didn't even know that could exist. So the most inspiring thing it didn't matter if you knew Prabhupada in person like a servant or like a secretary or just a devotee listening to his class or reading his book. It didn't matter if you were in a foreign country, because Prabhupada opened temples in over, 100 countries. More than 100 countries, practically. Well, I take that back. More than 50 countries. Everyone in every temple, while Prabhupada walked this earth, had this amazing experience. I wish there was a painting in this room. You know when Krishna is having a picnic with the cowherd boys? You've seen that painting. Every boy, every single boy. And by the way, do you know how many boys there are? Hundreds of millions of cowherd boys. You can't count how many boys there are. Did you know that? Oh, well, in the painting, because we only painted about 50. Don't think that's it. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of friends of Krishna. And what is so amazing is that every one of those friends thinks Krishna's sitting next to me. Krishna's talking to me. Krishna's letting me talk to him and play with him. It's so personal. How could hundreds and hundreds of millions of boys be thinking, I've got Krishna all to myself? I love that Krishna's with everyone, but I also have him. This is not anything that exists anywhere in this universe. This only exists on the transcendental realms of Godhead, of God's kingdom, in the Vaikuntha Lokas, in Ayodhya Loka, and of course in the Goloka, the planet of Krishna himself, Krishna Loka. Prabhupada is carrying with him the whole Guru Tattva. He's carrying with him everything of Lord Chaitanya. and his searching for how Radha loves him, Krishna. All of that is in Prabhupada. So it's not surprising when I tell you that every devotee felt that they never felt this before in their whole life. I know what love is for the first time ever. You're telling me I had millions of births, whatever. I now have found perfect love. Everyone fell in love with Prabhupada. And everyone felt Prabhupada was in love with them even more. And we had never experienced love like that. No matter who our friends were, who our boyfriend, girlfriends, husbands, wife, children, nothing compared to this feeling that I'm falling in love with Prabhupada. I'm so in love with him, I'm giving him my whole life out of love. And I'm feeling Prabhupada loves me much more than I love him. It was just like a revelation of love. That's how Prabhupada, well, that's what everyone felt. A revelation of pure love. Irresistible love. Unconditional love. Ever increasing love. Ever forgiving love. Everything about the way Prabhupada loves us was a revelation that this doesn't exist in the material universe. This only comes in the spiritual world, and here's Prabhupada bringing it to us. That's what inspires. The knowledge that's transcendental and the experience of pure love. Hare Krishna. So now the next question was about what mood should we have when we're reading Prabhupada's books, and what mood should we have when we try to distribute them? I'll obviously, I can't give you a perfect answer, but I'll tell you as much as I can express. Can you imagine? And the deities here are so beautiful, by the way. Why would anyone who sees these deities ever go to any different temple? Who could imagine if you live here or come here to worship that I'll try something else. But these deities are so gorgeous and irresistible, and so the entire perfection of the eye is seeing them. And imagine if the perfection of the ear and the mind would happen by the deity speaking to you. Not imaginary fantasy dream, actually speaking to you. That's the mood you should have when you open these books and start to read any page. Start with Bhagavad Gita. God is speaking to us. That is so amazing. It's like when you have to go to bed and you close Bhagavad Gita. The next morning, you're so excited. What's God going to tell me next? It's like he's your friend. He's going to tell you something. Every morning, you wake up and rush to open your Bhagavad Gita because God is not just speaking to Arjuna. He's speaking to every single soul in this room and beyond. But that's the mood you should have when you are reading Prabhupada books. They have to be authentic. It can't be some bogus person's interpretation. There's hundreds of Bhagavad Gitas. That's why I really wanted to read this invocation. What did the Goswamis do? They're gopis. These gopis who are girlfriends of God come into the universe, and what do? They're actual gopis. with the love, unlimited love of a gopi. What did they do when they were here in this world? I'm going to read to you what they did. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures in the universe. Gopis came down to do this. Scrutinize all the scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the 3 worlds. If they had not done this, there'd be no Sampradaya left. Nothing. It took the gopis coming into the universe to do this. How amazing is that? Of everything in our limited way that we think of gopis, and we see on the altar, oh, there's Lalita next to Krishna. Oh, there's Vishaka next to Radha. I mean, they come down to do this for us. Thus, they're honored all over the 3 worlds. And they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis, because they are gopis. But they're absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. So as long as you are reading from revealed scriptures, authorized scriptures, in the line of the 6 Goswamis, then you can take it with all your faith and all your intelligence and your whole heart and mind. God is speaking to me. This is unbelievable. I can't wait to hear what he's going to tell me tomorrow. Make that your mood when you read the books. You can't wait to hear what God is going to tell you tomorrow. How exciting is that? Now, distributing these. It is a transcendental aspect of Krishna when he came 5,000 years ago, that he wanted souls to understand him. And by understanding him, they would surrender to him. They would always think of him. You know him, you're going to always think of him. He's so amazing. And thus, you can surrender to him and give up everything else. And that was the qualification when Krishna came 5,000 years ago. I'm giving you knowledge about me, which will enable you, by knowing me, to be amazed and want to always be with me and always think of me. But how many people are born and raised like that in the Kali Yuga? I can tell you what Prabhupada said. 99.999% of humans were not raised like that and don't have that upbringing and don't think like that. And 500 years ago, it looked like no one's going to surrender to Krishna. Kali Yuga is degrading everyone into being demons, and the demons have come to the earth and find it so easy to gain power and overlordship of this earth and make it their demon kingdom. And God, in his form of Mahavishnu, enters the universe in in different forms, but he entered the universe as Advaita Acharya 500 years ago. Mahavishnu, the source of unlimited billions and billions and billions of universes filled with souls that are uncountable. That Mahavishnu comes into our Earth planet, this tiny little planet, as Advaita Acharya, and looks around and says, "My Lord, what you said when you came, they can't follow." And he gave the Lord an external reason to come again. And that coming again of Krishna was Lord Chaitanya. And so we need to take some time as followers of the Goswamis, who are the immediate disciples of Lord Chaitanya. We need to take some time to understand the mood of Lord Chaitanya. Why? Because as devotees who are surrendering in sadhana bhakti, we are praying every day, "My dear Lord, please make your interest mine. Please make your desires mine. I don't want to have a separate interest. I don't want to have separate desires. I don't want to have a separate mood. That's how I want to be your servant." So then we study. And we see that Lord Chaitanya came to actually save every soul in the whole universe, who are none of them are qualified to surrender to Krishna. And in his Lord Chaitanya form, I'm going to give you what you don't get until you're fully, perfectly surrendered. You never get this until the very end of bhakti. Krishna's thinking as Lord Chaitanya, I'm going to give it to you at the very beginning of bhakti. I'm going to give you Krishna Prem. I'm going to give you tiny little souls the ability to love me in one lifetime. So you study Adi Lila, 7th chapter, and you start seeing what are the qualities and characteristics of how Lord Chaitanya gave out this love of God. That's the mood of a book distributor. He doesn't care what the person looks like. He does not judge. Oh, here comes a person that's too old. Here comes a person that's just too puffed up. Here comes a person that's not very handsome or beautiful. Here comes a person from another country. They never understand. No, they never considered where a person was from, what their body looked like. Who cares what the body is? We're talking about the soul inside the body. Makes no difference what the body looks like or what condition the body is in. In the conventions of the world, there are suitable times for speaking to people, and there are unsuitable times. They didn't see that. They never thought there was only a suitable time. They thought every moment was a suitable time. In the social conventions of the world, to interact with someone, well, there's a suitable place. You don't march into their office and sit at their desk with them and start. There's a suitable place. Lord Chaitanya didn't think that way. He didn't consider, well, this is now a suitable place. This is not. He made no such distinctions. Wherever there was an opportunity, he gave Krishna to the souls. without those considerations. That's the mood of book distribution. Study those qualities of Lord Chaitanya. It's just a few verses in the Adi Lila, chapter 7, and you'll understand how to be a book distributor. Okay, now this very interesting question about why did Prabhupada get angry at things? And when did he actually show that anger? Obviously, in Prabhupada's classes, there are times when taking the words of Krishna and pounding them into the ether and atmosphere, he's speaking. You are all mudhas. You are all rascals. Otherwise, how are you here? Rascal number one, you think this body belongs to you. You think this house or apartment is your house. You think this clothing is your clothing. You think this little motorbike or bicycle is yours. You think you own something which is Krishna's property. You rascal. Everything is Krishna's property and you think it's your property? So, in a very general sense, with such gravitas that it didn't make us feel insulted, it made us feel shocked and awakened. Prabhupada told us, you are all thieves and rascals and demons, mudhas, and haters of you hate God. I don't feel I hate God. Prabhupada told me, you all hate God. That's why you're here. Every soul, Krishna said, is born into envy, overcome by the dualities of desire and hate. Every soul who comes into this universe. So Prabhupada's repeating Krishna's words, and it's so shocking. No, I don't hate God. I don't hate. Oh, yes, you do. Otherwise, how are you here? Anyway, one time there was this professor Prabhupada really liked. His name was Dr. Stilson Judah. He wrote a nice book about the Hare Krishna movement. And Prabhupada used to hold it up because it said such wonderful things about our movement and about Prabhupada and about Krishna consciousness. So one day, Dr. Stilson Judah, who was teaching in California, came to meet Prabhupada with 3 or 4 other professors, great scholars, great professors of philosophy, of the philosophy of science, of the philosophies of religion, and so on. So we had all these chairs for them. In the Los Angeles temple, we had a private garden just for Prabhupada. You had a asana seat. The devotees would sit on the grass, and these professors sat on the chairs. And they were excited. They'd all seen Judah's book. They were going to meet Prabhupada, the great spiritual master. And who knows what romantic ideas they had about what it would mean to meet a great spiritual master. So Prabhupada asked them, you are all teachers, as well as scholars, and as well as researchers. You're all teaching too. Yes, oh yes. Can anyone here tell me who is God? Prabhupada asked them, much like that. Do any of you know, you're a teacher, do you know who is God? Since everything is God, everything is God's energy, you are God's property. Can any one of you tell me who is God? And they said, no. And then Prabhupada said, rascals. Every one of you. You are rascal number one. I promise you, they did not expect that Prabhupada was going to tell them that they are great rascals. They are pretenders. If you don't know God, how are you teaching? Everything is God's energies. If you don't know God, you don't know that. You're a cheater. He called them cheaters to their face. And then he went on and on to explain again how every single topic in the world is part of it's part of God's Virata Rupa. It's part of his energies. His energies are everywhere. Nothing is anything except his energies working. Nature has three modes and they are qualitatively different and they spread everywhere in the whole universe. And everyone is under the influence of nature. And on Prabhupada's explaining the science of Krishna consciousness. So you did not know this and you say you're teaching. Without knowledge, you're a teacher. That's called cheater. And then on at the end, because I was there in that garden, at the end, I couldn't believe my eyes. They all got off their chairs after being thoroughly schooled. And they all bowed down on their knees with their head touching the ground to Prabhupada. So that is another aspect of Prabhupada's anger and the effects it can have. Now, there's some more personal stories, of course. I'm just going to tell you one because we have to get to the other questions, although I did partly answer yours. So, the Mataji's, there were three questions, right? I have to tell me again who raised their hand first, and what? Just shout out. What was your question? How did he save the fallen? Why did he go and save the most fallen? And the third question was, how did Prabhupada turn the hippies into Vaishnavas, happies? And the middle question was, just shout it out. I can't remember. There's a third question I'm missing. Oh, yes, the marathon, yes. Yeah, I'll just tell you that in 1 minute. Okay, so due to circumstances and the unending power of Maya, Krishna's energy that deludes the souls because they want to be deluded. Every soul wants to be deluded. They could not try to enjoy their senses of this body, which is not even them. The senses come before even the souls enter the universe. The senses are created, manifested, I should say. They're always existing. In the Mahatattva, Krishna awakens his energy, which we call the senses. Krishna awakens his energy, which we call the mind. Krishna awakens in the Mahatattva one of his energies, which we call the intelligence. In the Mahatattva, Krishna awakens one of his energies, which we call ahankara, false ego. Krishna awakens all these things. And then when they are there, now they can give bodies to the souls that just want to try to enjoy in billions of different ways. Then he impregnates the universe with all these uncountable jivas, and his energies give them bodies, mind, intelligence, or egos, senses, which we think are, these are my senses. They're not. It's an energy of Krishna's. The senses of the soul haven't woken up. These are just the senses of the material energies. And we're trying, our little consciousness is trying to enjoy the world through the filter of these senses or the filter of Ahankar. We're covered. It's like having dark glasses that are orange or blue or pink, and everything the color of everything changes very weirdly. Well, that's what the soul's consciousness is experiencing. We're covered by ego. It's an energy. We're covered by material intelligence. We're covered by material mind. We're covered by the 10 senses. There are 10, 5 knowledge acquiring and 5 working. And we're running after the 5 sense objects. Everything is just an energy of Krishna's, and we're inside so helpless, trying to experience who we are through these energies, through these filters. So there we are in our limited state. And Maya is so powerful, and her thankless task is to make everyone always deluded. So now we come to the story. But you have to know, we have to have the context. The person who adopted me and trained me, my mentor, at the end of 19, and I was selected by him to be his assistant in running the BBT. Anyway, at the end of 1973, he'd been a devotee since 68, but at the end of 1973, this great devotee, we all thought he was self-realized. He was everyone in ISKCON was shocked that he could have a problem with the senses. And, we had these crazy words, fall down, bloop, this and that. And he had a problem. And he stepped down from running the BBT. So he also stepped down from running the zone. His zone was the Western United States and Canada, Western Canada. So anyway, this was a shock. So Prabhupada was in Hawaii. Jayatirtha and myself, we called Prabhupada's secretary and start to explain that to us this was unthinkable, unfathomable. This great devotee cannot fall. And then he discussed it with Prabhupada and told us Prabhupada wants you to come. So we jumped on a plane, we went to Hawaii, and we had talked the whole time going there. How are we going to cover everything that Karandar did? So we proposed to Prabhupada that all his GBZ zonal duties, let Jayatirtha do that. And all his BBT duties, well, I'm the only one who actually knows what they are. So Jayatirtha said, and let Rameshwar do that. And Prabhupada agreed. And then we fly back to LA. So now I have this new position from going to BBT secretary to helping run the BBT. So the first thing I did is I fly to New York, to Brooklyn, where the ISKCON press is. This is in January of 1974. I have to understand the press. I have to understand what books there were. I mean, I'm now the publisher. So I spent days and days and days studying ISKCON Press, meeting with the devotees, hearing what's coming up next, and so on. I fly back to LA. Now Prabhupada is gone his usual route after Hawaii. He always goes to LA. So he had come to LA. And I had a meeting with Prabhupada in his room. Now, I had been with Prabhupada as a book distributor. We had done the first book distribution marathon in ISKCON. So, and I was writing the newsletter, broadcasting the Sankirtan glories of book distribution. So Prabhupada knew me in that way. And of course, I met him in Hawaii. He knew me as Karandar's assistant. So I said, Prabhupada, I just come back from the press, and I'd like to go over with you what their suggestions are for how the next books will come out. So nothing interested Prabhupada more than how we were going to either produce his books or mess up his books. He was interested in always seeing what are they doing. So I sat down with Prabhupada. Now, this great artist, his initiated name was Parikit Das. He has done some of the most amazing paintings. But at that time, the press devotees with Bali Mardana decided we're going to reprint the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And on the first page of every chapter, there was a nice line drawing. But this is a line drawing of the six Goswamis. But it's not in every chapter. But in teachings of Lord Chaitanya, each chapter had a beautiful pencil line drawing of what was going to be in that chapter. And those line drawings were done by Govinda Dasi with the help of her husband, Gaur Sundar. And Prabhupada loved them. The press devotees decided those are old. The artists have greater skills. We're overtime, aren't we? Oh, yeah. I know, but that's in 1 minute. I'm going to have to go much faster. I'm sorry. As I'm telling these stories, it's enabling me to be with Prabhupada in that way, and it's taking me longer to speak. Anyway, they had this idea that devotee skills are better, so we'll do new line drawings. And Parikit had spent 6 months studying the whole teachings of Lord and doing, maybe there were 12 different chapters. I can't remember how many chapters. Anyone know? In teachings of Lord Chaitanya, 12, 15 chapters, whatever. And he had done a new line drawing for each chapter. And I'm very proudly saying, Prabhupada, this is what they would like to do now for the reprinting of teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Now, Prabhupada had unbelievable, perfect, it's not material, a level of perfect memory that we can't even comprehend. So in his mind, he already knew every one of those drawings that he had approved. And now I'm showing him the new drawings. And one by one, he's showing me what's wrong with the new drawing, why the old one is better. Then we go to the next drawing, why this is not as good. The next drawing, you left out, the old drawing shows all of this, and it's not even in the new, on and on and on, until every single one of them was rejected. I said, okay. Prabhupada, they are getting ready to have us reprint the Krishna book. So the artists feel that when they first painted the Krishna book in 1969, the first 8 paintings, is that from me? No. Somebody else has a phone that plays chimes. Okay. So they felt especially the first 8 paintings in the Krishna book are childlike. That's the word. And to our material eyes, they are childlike. And so they felt we can actually paint the same. We can paint better. I mean, that was 69. This is now 74. So Prabhupada was so wary. You want to take a painting out of the Krishna book? He had to repeat this to make sure I was stupid enough to be saying. So it's not that you want to add paintings, You want to remove paintings and then put in new ones, different ones that haven't been approved? You're not adding. You're not showing me what you want to add. So that was the opening sentence. I said, oh boy, this is not going to go well. But because I had spent time with depressed devotees, I felt a kinship with a relationship with them. So I said, Prabhupada, we would like to do this. I'm just going to tell you that by the time I went through the paintings that they wanted to change, I was never again going to say, Prabhupada, we would like to do this. I was so afraid of what was happening. And I was a coward, total coward. Prabhupada, they would like to do this. It wasn't me anymore. It was they. Because Prabhupada was getting angrier and angrier. I showed him one painting of the new Krishna killing the Putana. The old original painting is one of the first 8, childlike. The new one was a huge demon. The perspective was she was gigantic, so long and big and ugly and demonic and blackish and darkish. And Prabhupada looked at that and he just said, and they think this is better. This is so horrible and ugly. Not Putana, the painting. So it was going like that. Then there was a painting of Krishna running. I can't remember that this was replacing anything. Not with the coward boys, running with Radha and the gopis. And we showed it to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, we had printed this in, 74. So we had printed this in the very first volume, I think, of Canto 3. After this meeting, that painting was never printed again. Krishna was running and his hairs were scattered and long. And artistically, in terms of detail and even composition, it wasn't bad. The detail was superior. And Prabhupada's looking at this. I mean, they have made Krishna with longest, wild hairs. Then he pointed to the painting because I had the color sketches. I was hippies. He said that. Hippies, long, wild hair, crazy hair. Hippie seeds. Hippies. Rejected. How are they still hippies? Oh, this was getting really bad because I had so much. I mean, everyone in the movement worshipped the artists, thought they were the most amazing souls in the world. So now this was unbearable. Prabhupada was so angry. And he said, once I have approved something for my books, it cannot be changed and it cannot be removed. It is approved. You can't touch it. Then Prabhupada told me, there's one exception to that rule. Only one. If you are doing the exact same painting with the exact same composition and showing everything that's there in the original that was approved, and if you're truly making it more technically expert, but you're not changing it, I won't consider that like a removal. I will consider that, okay, you're replacing it with something which technically is better, but it's the exact same subject, composition, elements, and so on. That would be allowed. So that was what Prabhupada had just told me before I was going to show him the final painting. Now, in Prabhupada's quarters in Los Angeles, hanging on his walls in his sitting room, of course, there's the great painting of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, the great painting of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and the gigantic painting of Radha and Krishna on the swing, done by Devahuti. Prabhupada loved that so much. Of course, it's not here in this book, but that was the original cover of the Nectar of Devotion. And that painting is in Prabhupada's sitting room. It sits on a low table and it's so tall it touches the ceiling. Then you go to Prabhupada's back room, his dressing room, his massage room, and so on. And they had paintings in there. They had the painting of the residents of Vrindavan going on the carts to escape Kansa and the demons traveling to Vrindavan. They had the painting of baby Krishna breaking out the demigods who were cursed to be trees. What else is in that room? Prabhupada's bookshelves with libraries of his different books that he uses as reference are in those rooms. His armoire is in that room with hanging all of his clothing. And on the floor between the armoire and the bookshelf, there are two amazing metal, darkish greenish metal steam trunks, they called them. Trunks. These are the trunks that Prabhupada came to America with. They're there in his room. They're amazing. When you think about it, every time you see those trunks, you think of Prabhupada's whole Lila coming to the West, which we have to get to in your question. So then we come to his bedroom. Bedroom is a very interesting room because Prabhupada does take some rest. He sits in a rocking chair and walks in that bedroom chanting japa. He is absorbed in Krishna, thinking of Krishna at every moment in a way that no one in the world does. And on his bed, Prabhupada can see the original, gorgeous Devahuti painting of the Rasa Lila. It's so beautiful, it's priceless. That was the original Rasa Lila in the original Krishna book. And then there's other paintings in that room of Krishna killing. What are the names of those demons in the form of the donkeys? We have that one. What is the name of the demons who came in the form of these gigantic elephants? No one can remember. Anyway, that painting is there. We have the original painting, also Devahuti. Oh, she's such an amazing artist. Of this man in the Krishna book. He's got a basket, and Krishna's filling it with jewels. Later, it became a lady, but the original painting, it's this amazing painting of Krishna and this person holding this basket, and it's just precious beyond words. So those are the kind of paintings that hang on the wall of Prabhupada's bedroom. Of course, there's a painting of Gaur Nitai, and so on. Oh, there's one more, a painting of Krishna with the cowherd boys on a picnic. So Prabhupada's sitting room, the door between Prabhupada's bedroom and his sitting room, there is no actual door. It's just a big opening. So when Prabhupada sits in his sitting room at his desk, he receives visitors there, he speaks to devotees there. On that desk, on those cushions, more books were spoken and translated and written by Prabhupada than in any other place in the world. That is such a sacred place. And when Prabhupada is sitting there, he also has a bookshelf. He sees to the right on the wall is this huge, beautiful painting of his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Then to his left is another bookshelf with books of reference books. You can't imagine. When Pradyumna used to travel with Prabhupada, the books are like this tall, this thick, and he had to carry a bag of like 3 or 4 of these books, like commentaries from Vishwanath Chakravarti, commentaries from Sridhar Swami, commentaries from Jiva Goswami. I mean, Prabhupada traveled with those books. But he always kept, the copies were always kept in LA. So then, while Prabhupada's sitting there, past his glance of his guru, he can see right into his bedroom. And there's this wonderful, horizontal, big, large, gorgeous spiritual painting of the Ras Lila. So every time Prabhupada is translating, and if he pauses, and if he ever decides to look up, he sees the Ras Lila. In his bed, the last thing he sees when he's closing his lotus eyes is the Ras Lila. In his bed, the first thing that Prabhupada sees when he opens his eyes is this Ras Lila dance. Clearly Prabhupada's favorite. I know you asked, what is the favorite rasa or Lila that of Krishna that Prabhupada likes? So even though I told you every line of Jai Radha Madhava is Prabhupada's favorite, but now that I'm telling you this story about this Ras Lila, there's no doubt that is also Prabhupada's absolute favorite. He goes to the groves in the forest of Vrindavan as an assistant to the assistants of the gopis, making tasteful arrangements for Krishna to love. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of gopis are there. And Prabhupada is there, serving one of the gopi servants with making nice assisting tastefully arrangements that the actual gopis can be in their way, in their unimaginable, unimitatable, almost unknowable way of loving Krishna. Prabhupada is there. Otherwise, why are we singing every morning Sri Radhika, Madhava Yor Apara, Madhurya Lila Guna Rupa Namnam, Padikshara Sadhana? That's Prabhupada, absorbed in the mellows, the moods, the form, the ecstasies of the gopi. And then, Nikunjayuno. This does not apply to anyone internally other than Prabhupada. Nikunjayuno Rati Kelly Siddhaya Yayali Bir Yukir Apekshaniya Tatrati Tacha Tati Balabasya. Prabhupada is there as the servant of these unlimited gopis, making inconceivably spiritual, tasteful arrangements for their pleasure with Krishna, to help them in many different ways. Who are you singing that about if not Prabhupada? One devotee here, he was corrected, once made some swinging arm comment. What? This is, you act like this is the Prabhupada song. Well, it is. It doesn't apply to any other guru on that level. Let's be very candid. I can say this because I have some personal experience when Prabhupada left initiating devotees as a guru. That is the Prabhupada song right now for everyone in ISKCON. That is about Prabhupada spiritually leaving us in the physical world to be with Radha and Krishna and the gopis as one of the servants of their servants. And we sing that every day. So yeah, that's now. So here I am at Prabhupada's desk. He's so mad about hippie seeds. Everything's being rejected. There wasn't one substitution that he accepted. So I said, Prabhupada, I was so afraid now. I was terrified. I said, Prabhupada, they have done a new painting of the Ras Lila and they want to take out. I couldn't even finish the sentence. Prabhupada's eyes were red, like the deity eyes of Lord Nrsimhadev are painted red. They're painted that way. It's not a material emotion. It's Prabhupada's favorite pastime, favorite Lila, favorite painting in the whole universe. And I'm like a jerk, neophyte. My first meeting with Prabhupada is the manager of the BBT, the publisher, telling him they want to take out your Ras Lila painting and put this one in. And again, the one that they wanted to put in, the gopis' hairs were wild. Their heads were not covered. It was too much. Prabhupada was so concerned that the worst thing that could ever happen in the history of the Hare Krishna movement is that you will make changes to my books. And if you do that, it will destroy everything that I have done. It will ruin the whole purpose and quality of the Hare Krishna movement will be ruined if you change my. And here I am showing him that right during his lifetime, these neophytes who have only been devotees for what, 6 years, 7 years, wanted to already change his books. Well, it was unbearable. And I had never seen Prabhupada personally that angry. So this will have to be the last story. And please come tomorrow, all of you. Figure out how to do that. So I'll start with the stories that came from this side. Prabhupada kept looking through his doorway at the Ras Lila that he loved and woke up to every morning and went to sleep every night dreaming of this. And he looks at this nonsense Ras Lila. And he was so overwhelmed with the future of the movement at stake right at that moment, that these fools and rascals could change my books. He was just like, more than anything else, that's his anger was for the whole future of this movement. And he took his fist, his lotus hand, into a fist. And he's banging it on his desk. And he's yelling at me about the change disease. He's yelling at me. And I'm just sitting there like, this is 1974, so I'm a 4-year brahmachari, sitting in front of the spiritual master of the universe. We sing every morning during Guru Puj, Ebe Yasha, Gushu, Tri Bhuvana, the demigods all over the universe. They come to attend Prabhupada Guru Puja. They come to acknowledge who Prabhupada is. I promise you, that line in that song, I don't know anyone else in the universe it applies to other than Prabhupada. The whole 3 worlds are amazed that Prabhupada came to this universe. That's what we sing every morning. Everyone goes so fast because it comes right after. What is this line just before it? Someone shouted out. No. This is in the Guru Puja song. Just before ABCSP. Say it again. Then there's a song that everyone sings. It's got Prabhu. It's got I can't. How did I forget it? Tomorrow morning I'll be shouting it at the top of my lungs. Anyway, that line, everyone sings the line before over and over and over again, slower, faster, pausing on certain words and making it go faster. And then they get to ABCSP and it goes very fast, which means they're not even thinking about what it means when they sing it. Okay, anyway. He was yelling so loud, and the fist sound was so loud from the door of his sitting room was closed, but maybe it sounded like someone was attacking Prabhupada, which is exactly what it was, an attack on Prabhupada, on his books. So his servant, traveling servant, was Sudama Swami, Sudama Maharaj. He comes running. The door opens, he comes running in. He takes one step in the room. He sees Prabhupada yelling at me, banging his fist. He'd never seen anything like this. This was so fearsome. And I think I've told this before. He covered his eyes with his arm. He couldn't bear to see it. He's standing on one leg, trying to make it so that he's not there. It was too horrible. The most, I don't know, maybe what Arjuna felt when he saw Krishna's universal form devouring and killing everyone. Maybe that's what Sudama was getting a taste of. So he never even entered the room besides that one step. And when Prabhupada felt I can't even say what Prabhupada felt whether he thought this now means forever my books are safe. But with his fist in the air, he looked at me and pointed his lotus finger at the door. And just with total disgust, that's how I took it, he said these two words, "Get out." So that was the first of a number of experiences that I have had with Srila Prabhupada, yelling and being angry, and me loving it, just somehow bizarrely thinking, what mercy I'm getting. I can't believe my guru is so chastising me. This is so personal. I was beside myself. So I called up ISKCON Press. I talked to Bali Mardhan and Radha Vallabha, and then I could hear Bali Mardhan, "Hey, Radha Vallabha, Prabhupada called all the artists demons and rascals." I don't know why he felt enjoyment in saying that. Later, I spoke to Jadharani about this, and she said, when my words were written out for her to see what Prabhupada's comments were, painting by painting, she literally started. She's Prabhupada's first daughter, initiated daughter, and first artist. And her mind is screaming over and over, is suicide an option? I have displeased my guru so much because she was one of the driving forces behind these suggested changes. She's asking, should I consider suicide? So that's how that particular Lila ended. Okay, so I apologize We are, so over time. And I don't want it to affect your morning japa. I promise I'll get to those 3 questions first tomorrow night. And it said on my sheet 7, and for some reason someone told me 7:30. If we can come here tomorrow at 7, you can have more questions, although that one is going to take a while. Just asking me about the Chaitanya Charitamrita Marathon. That could fill a book. I'll do my best. This Prabhupada Katha makes us. Prabhupada's with us. And we can feel he's with us when we share these stories. We can feel what it's like to be right there with him. And so, thank you for wanting to have that experience. And like a dentist pulling it out of me, like a tooth extraction, you are all like that to me. Thank you. Vanchakalpatarubhischa kripasinduvyeva Patitanan Vavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namam Vishnubhadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadane Nirvasesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshata Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for helping me think of Prabhupada.